everybody, we are back with another episode, the second episode of today. So it's volume 2. You have your host, Nathaniel James, on the Walk a Mile in My Shoes podcast. And with me today, we have...
Edward.
Edward. How would you like me to say that?
Oh, just call me Eddie if you want.
Eddie. So we have Eddie, and he's going to be on the podcast today talking a bit more about his journey and what he does in his life. So Ed, just a quick little check-in, you know what I mean? Like, what's your background? Where are you from? And kind of like, what is it that you're going to be talking to us about today?
Okay, so from Birmingham, not far from, where we are now. I'm 30 years old, father of 2, and I've been an ultramarathon swimmer for about 4 years, but I've been a swimmer my whole life since about the age of 5. And I sort of, if I could sort of talk to you about my journey through how I've trained through endurance sports, it can be interesting to certain audiences. So, we'll see how we go.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. So let's go straight in then. So ultra marathon, that's something new to myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know about a marathon and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
I've never known about ultra marathon.
So you've got a normal running marathon is 26.2 miles.
Okay.
A swimming marathon is considered anything 10 kilometres or more, which is about 6.4 miles. Still a lot to swim.
Yeah.
An ultra marathon, anywhere between 13 and 100 miles continuous swimming, which it's a big distance to cover. But yeah.
So how many? So okay. So you just told me like the distance, and for me that's a long way. Do you know what I mean?
So, even for me that's a long way.
Yeah, I could imagine. So how long does it take you to so okay? Let's just say let's say a marathon. Do you know what I mean? So when you're in a race and stuff like that, how does the race come about? Do you know what I mean? Where do you do your racing, and for like how long is it? How many hours is it?
A lot of them. So the ultramarathon swim I'm booked onto is in 2022.
Okay.
And it's swimming across the English Channel. So from England to France, continuous, one side to the other.
No breaks?
You can break, but you can't. There's no getting out of the water. There's no getting on the boat. You can't touch a human. So it's your support crew's there, but you're very isolated in terms of being in the water. Like it is you in the water.
Okay.
And that's 21 miles, nautical miles on a good day.
So is that like, so when I say like have a break, is it kind of like certain pit stops that you will have in the water?
Yeah.
Sort of thing?
So you'll talk to your crew about this. Like your crew will know when you need to stop, when you need nutrition.
Okay.
You normally, like when I've done big swims before, you get like your water, which obviously you need water because you've probably drank a bit of seawater during the swim.
Yeah.
And you'll get one that's like, it's almost like a shot glass, and it's just a concoction of paracetamol, ibuprofen.
Okay.
And it's not the nicest, but in 5 hours you'll thank yourself for having it.
Yeah.
And in terms of getting across, it depends how fast you swim, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously I'm guessing you have to pace yourself a lot.
Yeah, of course.
when
Very
you're
important.
in there and stuff like that.
Very important.
So when you're so I'm just putting myself in your position now. I'm in the English channel, and I'm swimming. Do you know what I mean? And I'm getting to the point where I'm tiring, and I've already had my pit stop. Like, what would somebody like me who was in the water? What would I have to do to be able to sustain swimming? Do you know what I mean? What would I have to do to put into my mind to keep going?
It really is a case of what I like to think, not just with swimming, but with all sort of endurance sports. It's how much you're willing to give, because you'll hit many walls during 15-hour swims, believe me, and it's how much you're willing to give. If you really want to stop, you'll stop.
Yeah.
But if you want to find out what is in there, how much you can get out of yourself, and if you know you can get more out of yourself, you'll push yourself.
Yeah.
And it's all, when you're in the water, like I said, you've got a support crew and a boat crew, but it is ultimately whether you fail or whether you succeed. It's down to how much you're willing to give.
So is it more? Would you say it's more? What do you think you would need to train more? The physical element or the mental element that comes with it?
Mental.
The mental.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
So what kind of let's say what kind of coping techniques have you been able to adopt?
So these are really good ones, and they're not necessarily swimming, but like when the lockdowns were in place, I substituted swimming for running.
Okay.
I'm not a runner. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm an endurance athlete, but I'm by no means a runner. I've got, damaged my ankles over the years. But I took to running to sort of, fill the void, if you will, if that makes sense. And I think that it's called adversity training, right? Because that's what you're training for. When you're swimming long distances and your mind's breaking and you know that's adversity. So if you're training just as hard as the race is, it's not going to feel as bad. So I used to pick the days running where it was like the coldest, the weather forecast was raining, thunder and lightning, or do you know what I mean? I'd actively seek out that adversity and I'd do it. Or like I'd do hill sprints up the wet grass and it'd be horrible, but you get yourself used to feeling like that. So when it happens on the day, you're more equipped to deal with it and push through it.
That uphill battle, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like me against me sort of thing.
Of course it is, yeah. You're 100% right, 100% right. And there's a classic, I think this was the American Marines or the American Army, and they did what's called a 40% rule. So when people drop off, they're too tired, they get, they think they've done as much as they possibly can and they quit. You only actually reach 40% of your maximum. And David Goggins talks about this as well, that if people only knew or did it once, worked at 100% their maximum, they'd turn around and go, wow, what am I made of?
Yeah.
And that's the idea of in like marathon swimming and endurance swimming. It's like, only you can find out what you're made of.
Definitely.
And each year I swim further and further and further, and that constant, I haven't hit a limit yet. I want to know where I can go. So I think that's...
So something that just like popped up into my mind is like, I always say to people that if you have a purpose and you're living with that purpose, you have a reason to live. Do you know what I mean? Like, at what age was it that you realised that, marathon swimming and stuff like that was your purpose and that you were going to focus on that goal?
So it was probably about 4 years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago. I've been a swimmer my whole life. I've taken it seriously when I was a kid, but I had a couple of like, not serious injuries, but like injuries where I realised as you get a bit older, when you hit the floor, you don't bounce as much as you used to.
Yeah,
anymore.
when you was younger, yeah.
So I need to sort of, and obviously I damaged my ankle, I had double fracture, and I got told by the physio, get yourself swimming, and obviously I was no stranger to that.
Yeah.
So I got back into swimming to strengthen it, sort of fell in love with it again, and that's when I sort of found marathon swimming as a sport and thought, no way, like people do this.
Yeah.
And then slowly but surely I've sort of like dived into the community a little bit more of marathon swimming and ultra swimming, and round, I wouldn't say become a figure, but like there's a lot of people who follow me that they're in the same community as me, so I feel really welcomed over the last couple of years to sort of being given this platform that we're here now, and as well as all the love and everything that people share on social media, which is great. And I've just trained and trained and got to a point where I started swimming and thought, I want to see how much I can get out of myself. And at the point where I realised I'd got enough out of myself was when I could get in the water every day and I could swim 5 miles with no breakfast, no water, no nothing. Wow. That to me was, I could never do that 5 years ago.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine.
So now I've stopped looking at what I can achieve and I look at what a human is capable of. Yeah. And now the doors open a bit wider now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
So yeah.
So from that, has that made you delve into the more mind, body,
and
soul,
like how
and
much
stuff
a
like that?
human can endure, not just me. I know how much I can endure. I've beaten my goal, smashed my barriers down. Now how much can a human
So obviously we're speaking about it now. Today's the first day that I've realised that there is marathon swimming.
Exactly, man.
Do you know what I mean? Like, why do you think that it isn't highlighted? It is a sport, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in the Olympics.
It's in the Olympics now. Yeah. Okay, so why do you think that it hasn't really been highlighted as one of not a main sport? Do you know what I mean? But why do you think that not many people know about the sport of marathon swimming?
I think because it's not many people sort of are willing to go out and do that. There's a lot of fear aspects, not just swimming from end to end, but there's so many different, and I don't know, I suppose it's people don't really do that, if that makes sense. The human body's not equipped to sort of do things like that, so you really have to put your heart and soul and train, and I mean, marathon swimming's in the Olympics. They do a marathon 10K, which is a 10K open water race.
Okay.
But 10K is a warm-up for some people. Like some
Yeah,
people
I
I
can
know,
imagine.
they'll warm up on 6 miles.
Yeah.
Before breakfast, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
So do you think they're doing it at a short distance just to kind of... Has this always been in the Olympics, or... was it
I'd have to look it up. I couldn't say off the top of my head. But
okay, because there is so many different sports in the
oh,
Olympics.
yeah,
If
like-
you're not, if you don't know or have knowledge of it, you're not going to think, oh, Olympic marathon swimming today. Let me tune in, because
Yeah,
obviously we get like loads of different boxes, don't we?
Exactly.
More
You're
people,
right.
athletics, your football or boxing. And Olympic boxing is massive
yeah.
as well, and it's a stepping stone for other people. So, okay, so on the mind, body, and soul aspect. How long have you been on that journey of delving in and understanding the human capacity?
Probably about the same sort of time, because when I started doing marathon swimming and started going from, I can swim for half an hour without stopping, I can swim for an hour without stopping, get good at that. Now I can do it for 3-4 hours without stopping. There comes a point where you'd sort of just have to go, you need to read into that mental side more, because that's when you start hitting walls that if you're not prepared when you hit them, you're not going to know why can't I swim further. So when you look at people like influencers and sort of take a little bit from them and apply it to yourself, but not hear it. You can't just hear it. You have to understand it to be able to apply it to yourself.
Yeah.
Once you've sort of made that connection, you apply it to your sport or your dream or your... Do you know? Does that make sense? So your mindset, and it takes you places, and then you start seeing improvements. So that's when I sort of thought the mental side is so important, and I never used to think it was, but it really is.
Because what I'm kind of getting from you is that the passion was obviously doing the marathon swimming and that, but you've been able to use the skills learned from that and transfer it into other aspects in your life, and that alone is very, very powerful. It's like myself. I started off like, I want to be a rapper, but then I realised to myself, you know what, like, there's a 10% chance, do you know what I mean, you can make it as a rapper. But I have a passion for music, I love music. Why not teach young people music?
Exactly.
Why not teach? So I'm still doing what I love, all right? I might not be on a stage, all that kind of stuff, but I'm still able to use my skills while learning how to do music and transfer that now to teaching with young people.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
It's rewarding, I bet it is as well.
And it's definitely rewarding. I think it'd be more rewarding than me being a top-selling artist and stuff, because a lot of the young people, when they come to me with their music and they're like, look what I wrote last night, I can see in them that the light is coming back in, like they're feeling like they've got a goal, a purpose and stuff like that.
Exactly, man.
So with yourself and stuff like that, do you know what I mean? So you mentioned the Olympics and stuff like that. Is that something that you'd love to delve into? Or
I mean, I've only started looking at it quite recently though, because obviously being a marathon swimmer, I pace myself in a swim. So like Olympics is on about, you got to be quite fast.
Okay, yeah.
But again, this for me was sort of, why not delve into that little? Why not have a go at that? Like, you know, I've swam ridiculous distances. I've still got things in the pipeline for the next few years.
Okay.
But why not spend a few months delving into seeing how fast I can go, how much better I can get? There's no harm, you know.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but I've made the first move. I've contacted them saying if I can keep on what I'm doing, would you look at me as a prospect? And there's a chance. Yeah, it could happen.
Because in some sports, like, they all have different age groups when you peak and all of that kind of stuff. So
you are right.
In the marathon, swimming marathon, what's the kind of age for peaking? Or do you know of it?
It's a really diverse community. Like, it really is.
Is it like, because obviously yourself, you're 30, do you know what I mean? So the contestants, are they older or younger or around about the same age? Or is there actual
I'd say
cap?
I'd say like people who like compete and do this for like, not for a living, but like get themselves on a stage and are known for marathon swimming, they're all like my age or older.
Okay.
Yeah, believe it or not. Like, there's ladies that have swam across the channel, which is the same body of water I intend to swim across, and they're like 68.
Okay, wow.
So you see, so there is like a wide age gap as well. Like
So just off the top of my head, like, have you had any like personal like traumatic experiences that have basically like helped shape the mindset that you have now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd say this was probably, I think, 2 years ago now. 2018. I did a open water swim. I'd been in the water for about 9 hours, just under 9 hours. We were carrying on swimming, and they were blowing the whistles to sort of get my attention. So I stopped, and I couldn't hear much because they had the swimming out over my head.
Okay.
Waves hitting me in the face, but I could tell by the way they were sort of looking at me. We want to get you out. Sort of, whether it's summer in the weather or whatever we're about to come into, they decided they want to get me out, and I felt fine. So instead of me trying to shout back at them and having they can't hear me, I can't hear them, I just started stretching my arms up to show them, look, my arms aren't seized up, like I'm fine. I'm kicking my legs and making bubbles, and I thought, right, I'm good. I'm good. You still want me to get out, but I'm fine in myself. Like nothing's aching. I'm not hurting. My breathing's fine. So I carried on swimming, and I was saying to him, look, I'm fine. Carried on swimming, and then I got about 5-6 strokes, and I got jabbed by like a reach pole because I was ignoring the whistles. And so I've sort of snapped round. When you've been in the sea for 9 hours and you feel something jab you in the side, you think the worst. So I've grabbed this pole straight away, and they're like, right, get out. So they ended up getting me out, and I was on the boat, and I was livid. As it like why have you got me out? Like I was fine. I was showing you I was fine. I showed you I had my shoulders hadn't seized up, nothing. And they looked at me all confused, as if to be like, "Is that what you thought you were saying?" And like the truth was, I was talking absolute gibberish, and that sort of taught me that like it was a really surreal feeling, because like they were telling me what was happening, and I was sort of like, "You're all lying." But I was delusional, and it's like, and that sort of shaped the way to like maybe sort of listen sometimes. You do have to. My best way to explain it is there is a fine line between dedication and stupidity. You know,
because that's it. Sometimes we know how far we can go, but obviously we want to push on. But if it's to the detriment to us, sometimes just take a step back and be like, okay. And obviously it's good that you had a team there that were kind of like, come on, and then you're like, do you know what I mean? And then after, I'm guessing upon reflection, you kind of thought like, whoa, that was a close call. Because what if you would have passed out?
What if the boat wasn't there?
Or what if the boat wasn't there? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like it's kind of that's okay. So from that, you learnt from, you know what, just sometimes just listen and just understand that even if I feel like I can go extra, it's about my health and my well-being first. Do you know what I mean? Okay,
right,
so
100%.
For people that'll be tuning in and all that kind of stuff, do you know what I mean? Do you have anything like an inspirational message, like from your journey and from where you've been and where you're going to, what you would like to leave to them? And especially to the people out there that might have a passion or goals, dreams, aspirations, but their passion might not be desirable to the masses, so they think, oh, I'm not going to do that. You know, like say like a pianoist might think, oh, I'm just a pianoist, I'm not a music artist. But without the piano and the backing track, there is no music artist.
Exactly,
so
right,
their role is just as important as the person that's in the limelight. But sometimes people in the background, they feel like, oh, what I'm doing is less desirable, so what's the point in doing it? Like, do you have anything inspirational that you'd like to say to them?
Yeah, I think, I mean, no matter what your craft is, whether it's physical, whether it's, applying for a job, or like if it's something that scares you, right, like, which is what like entering the world of marathon swimming for me was scary, right, because it was unknown, and it was, when you start hitting walls, you sort of think, wow, this is for me. Yeah. If you love it and you get up and you don't have to motivate yourself that much to do it. If you like it that much, you can't stop doing it. Because and it's the message I sort of want to leave is like, for people who sort of look at, like me, for example, or other people that you have on a podcast that have got other interesting things to sort of deliver. I've got to where I am in terms of swimming by just going through some of the worst times in my life. And you've got that part to people has always got to be explained, that if you want to be, if you're not sure what to do with it, whether you want to go or you want to, push your sport, your craft, you're going to go through hard times. And that's one thing that if you don't explain to people and then they hit those hard times, that's what makes them quit. Because they don't expect it. If you tell someone, if you want to be good at something, you've got to sometimes fail a few times, but learn from your failure. And sometimes being a little bit ferocious sometimes with it, and I wouldn't say as far as arrogant, but sometimes you have to know you're good to be able to really, know your own worth. Whether you're starting at the bottom or whether you're halfway up, or whether you just got to know your worth. You know what I mean?
It's not where I'm at. It's where I'm going.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And like in terms of like when I've done big swims, and I know how far I've got to swim, the beach I've got to get to, or like the point I've got to get to. I don't look at the whole swim because it's overwhelming, and it makes me it makes me want to quit.
I could imagine.
So I just think, right, I'll swim to my first feed, and that's my first little bit. So all I'm thinking is, right, when's that first feed? Right, it's got to be soon, bang. So I'm doing it in steps, do you know what I mean? And then eventually I'm like, I look up again, and then the last step is I can see the shore, and I'm 5 miles away. Bang.
So when you finish all of these miles and you come out of the water, like, what's the first feeling? Like, what? Is it a sense of achievement, or is it a sense of, oh gosh, yes, I've made it? Or...
You just want to scream as loud as you can.
Imagine.
Like, it's...
Because, like you say, you have to take certain paracetamols or in between that. Do you know what I mean? So you're probably a bit like docile, like, oh, do you know what I mean? But just that sense of achievement. So I always say sometimes it's hard. Sometimes when you're doing a lot of good stuff, it's hard to track the journey. But I feel like if I was a marathon swimmer, I'd be tracking. You have to track the journey because you're on the journey. Every mile, every whatever, every stop. And then you get out of the water. It's like, I picture myself if I was you, I'd be like, I'd just pass out and then I'd wake up and I'd be like, you made it? And then that's when I could probably celebrate because I'm guessing the emotion, the pain, there's loads of
Do you know the hardest
elements.
thing, the thing that gets a lot of marathon swimmers, and I've seen it on videos of people that swam for hours and hours and they get out at the end and they want to get up and go, but because they've not used those walking muscles for 10 hours, they suddenly go to get up and cheer and they can't physically stand up. And actually seeing that on a video, somebody crawling up a beach because they can't stand up, like empaths, like people who feel other people's, like that's when you look at it and go, you feel the work they've put in.
I'm an empath as well, man. So I'd be
it
like
makes your hair stand
go on, man, I'm talking about this and that. That Biggest Loser show, do you know what I mean? I've never been at that weight, do you know what I mean, where I've had to go hard and lose it, but I've always been intrigued by that show. And at the end, when they're all standing there and they're standing against that, it's just kind of like, I feel their achievement for them. I feel like I've been on the journey with them, do you know what I mean?
And I think, do you know when I spoke to you about that lady, I think before we went live, about that lady who's from America and she's from the channel back to back.
What's her name? Sorry,
Sarah. I think her Instagram's like Sarah Swims 04. I think.
Okay.
She's not massively known, which it just baffles my head every time. But anyway, there's when they did like a documentary of her, like her local council or whatever did a documentary. It was there was a little snippet towards the end where it was like a pebble beach. And she was doing a final leg. She'd done it, I think it's 4 times. So she'd come back eventually. And she was getting out. And literally, she looked like a completely different... She almost looked not human. Like her skin was eating away. Her tongue was in pieces. The goggles had left marks around her eyes. And as an empath, someone who sort of delves into the same sort of realms as that, you feel it to another level. You're like, wow, what you've put in there.
And like I always say, as empaths and that, we get a lot of inspiration from other people's, you know what I mean? And like when they're down, we feel it 10 times more. When they're high, we're high with them. We're like, oh my God, I'm so happy for you and stuff like that. So I completely understand like what you're saying, and like what you were saying about the woman, she has an amazing story to be told, and I believe that it doesn't matter about your following and all that kind of stuff. It's about your story and your experience, you know what I mean, and your experience can help others, you know what I mean. So I'm definitely gonna look at that woman because, like you were saying,
definitely,
she swam the English Channel, didn't she? 4 times. 4 times, so back and forth, on her own. You know what I mean? How many miles is that?
Well, it's 21 to 22 nautical miles times 4. And I think her last crossing, because when you see it, they did like a video, and it's like do you know, like a bow and arrow? Yeah. It's like a bow, like the arch you swim. Like every time you do it, the current will take you can't swim against it.
Oh, right.
But on her last leg, she must have been, and the bow was like, and then she went all the way like she got caught by a current, so it added like a good few hours onto the swim. Yeah, a good few miles onto the swim as well. But yeah, there's loads of factors that can make or break it as well, like doing a channel swim. If you go from, if you're not quick enough, so you take the tide to take you out into the middle, right? and you get what's called like dead water in the middle, which is you can't see any land. You just
Okay.
you and the boat,
Yeah.
and you have to cross this like certain amount of mileage in a certain time if you want to meet the current to take you into France.
Okay.
If you're a little bit too slow, you're going to meet the current coming back out,
Oh,
which is
wow.
then going to make your swimming impossible,
No way.
and which is where a lot of swimmers get pulled out because they're just the guys on the boats have been going. You've been swimming for an hour and you've travelled like 20 meters because
Oh,
the
wow.
tide's just working
You're
against
just battling
you.
against
Exactly.
the tide, and that just sounds
Yeah.
tiring.
And hypothermia, another thing, is what stops about 50-60% of channel swimmers.
Okay.
Hypothermia.
No way.
Not
So how would you
exhaustion.
look? How would you? Is it just a feeling that you'd have in your body, sort of thing? Or
Yeah, so the definition of hypothermia is not when you're cold or like when you feel like you can't feel your toes. The definition is when you are losing more body heat than you can generate.
Okay.
So when you're standing still and not moving in freezing cold water, that's when hypothermia starts.
Okay.
The clock normally lasts about 20 to 25 minutes.
Wow.
After that, you're going to be in hospital.
Okay.
So
that's that, and that's
Yeah,
when
that
you
just-
you rely on your team to be able to
yeah,
be,
of course.
to be quick.
There's
to
only
get you
so
out.
much you can swim before eventually, if the water's too cold, whether you're generating more heat than whatever, it's still going to catch you. You won't dodge hypothermia, which is why people train for ice miles. I don't know what you know
Okay.
what ice mile is. An ice mile is anything where the water's under 5 degrees and you swim a mile.
Okay.
And a mile is like, of your average pool, the equivalent of about 64 lengths, which
Whoa.
to a seasoned swimmer's not too far.
Okay.
But when the water's 4 degrees, it's a whole other
Yeah,
ball game.
it's a
like,
whole nother ball game.
because theory says you should be able to spend 1 minute in the water per degree of what the water is. So
Okay.
if the water's 15 degrees, you staying there for 15 minutes. The water's
Okay.
20 degrees, and so on.
Yeah.
5 degrees would say 5 minutes.
Okay.
Well, no one can swim a mile in 5 minutes. So there are people that defy science, which is, again, it's really interesting to see. I can probably do, in water less than 5 degrees, I can probably handle about 8 minutes
Okay.
max.
That's a
And
max,
then,
and
like,
then it's,
My body, if I don't start getting out, I won't get out.
okay.
And my muscles won't work
Yeah,
to get me
muscles
out.
won't
Like,
work.
yeah.
So this has been like a very interesting podcast for me because it's something that I've never until I spoke to you today. I didn't even know that sport existed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's, to me, it's about the background of it and like kind of like what you had to go through to get to where you are now.
Exactly,
Do you
yeah.
know what I mean? And how you've been able to bring the mind, body, and soul into it to make you a high performer in your
Yeah,
field.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And you understood that. So I feel like we've covered a lot of the key points that I wanted to cover with you. But to leave something, I'm going to ask everybody this question.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of like, I'd like you to tell the viewers about a quote that means something to you,
Yeah.
and kind of like, or maybe a positive affirmation that you live by.
Yeah, so I I follow a lot of people who sort of have their own quotes that sort of rub off, but one I sort of invented, if you
Okay.
will, on my own, sort
Yeah.
of, and I think it was something, it's on one of my Instagram posts, but it was along the lines of, let me think, you will, when you break me, you will truly see how far I can go.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like when
yeah.
I break, then you'll see how far I can go.
Yeah, yeah.
If that resonates, if you know.
No, I understand. I understand what you mean. So, and you said that you made that up yourself. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like,
Only when you break me will you truly see how far I can go. That was the quote.
Okay,
Got it.
bro. yeah, that first. You know what? We got that as an exclusive.
If you can find it somewhere else, then show me. But I'm
yeah,
pretty sure I
show
made
us,
it.
I don't think you'll be able to. But like, and then to finish off with like, what inspired you? Let me do that again because I just hit the mic. So to finish off, what inspired you to create that quote? What life experience did you go through that made you think of that?
Testing myself more and more in swimming, in terms of when I first got into marathon swimming, swimming like a mile without stopping, and then 2, and then 5, and then 6, and then 10, and then just getting to a point where I never used to break. I always used to go further every session.
Yeah,
So I was like, that's where the quote came from. Like, only until you break me, until I'm not swimming as far as I did yesterday, will you find out what I'm made of, if that makes
Okay.
sense. I mean, I have broken a few times.
I could imagine,
yeah,
bro.
when you push yourself hard.
You might have broken it, but you pieced it all back together.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what I mean? And it's made you a stronger person.
Piece it together, keep moving.
That's it, and a stronger swimmer. So, mate, listen, fair play to you, man. It's been very inspiring speaking to somebody that has such a unique story, and I feel like people will be able to listen to you and take a lot from your journey.
I really hope so. If anything, that's why I wanted to come, because I've explained it to certain people, like, you know, the mindset, and like we've just explained it, and it's rubbed off on certain people, and I just really hope that this will affect a few people in some way, shape or form. That's my goal.
I think a good thing as well is what I'm noticing is that so many unique stories and so many unique experiences is what is going to help the masses with their journey.
100%.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Because like I'm saying, you've had to persevere. When you're in that water, you're persevering. In life, we have to persevere. Do you know what I mean? If we don't learn how to persevere, we're going to be stuck in the same spot, same stagnant place, doing the same old. When you persevere or you do something different or you challenge yourself, that's how you grow as a person. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
And I can tell that you've gone through a lot of personal and self-development that's making you be able to power through the norm of, I can't swim that far, to you're doing miles, you're doing channels, bro.
But then the miles and all this now becomes the norm, whereas years ago this wasn't. So then people look at that and go, how the hell do you do?
You know what I mean? Like, I'm training myself to get to that level, but that's standard. Do you know what I mean? But to other people, it's just kind of like, yo, just doing 2 lengths. I'm like,
I see it every day, and they're like, how do you do that? And you just have to be like, mate, I've swam since before you were born. I'm sorry, that's probably why.
You've broken through that capacity, that capacity where they say I can't do. No, I can do, and I will do. Do you know what I mean? I still have
bad days in training that I can never make good of, but it's just you learn to just pass it off and just wait for the next
and maybe
day.
on them bad days is when you get to learn more about yourself and more about am I gonna break? No, I'm not. I'm gonna keep going, or like I always say, it's okay to have an off day. Do you know what I mean? Man. It's okay to be like, you know what, today I tried, but it wasn't my best, but tomorrow I'm going to go even harder. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And then when you do it tomorrow and you achieve whatever you achieved, you think, you know what, see what I mean? I didn't beat myself up and I've been able to achieve that.
What we were talking about earlier about mindsets, it delves back into that. You have to be talking to your body. If you need a rest day, take it, because that's when you hit these walls and like these big, like, you know, when you're in the thick of it, and like say you're in the middle of a lake that you can't swim out of and you need to keep going, that's when your mind will help you. So talking to your body, understanding your body, knowing when you need your rest, it's all part of the process, man. It really is.
In itself is a gem in itself.
Like, you're knackered, for example, right? You're knackered. You don't want to get up tomorrow. You don't want to do your swim. You don't want to do your run, but you get up and do it anyway. Those are the days that count.
Yeah.
They're the days
They're the ones when you put in that money in the bank on that day. That day when I didn't want to have done it, and now look, I'm able to do more. So on that note, once again, Barra, thank you
for having me, man. It's been brilliant.
It's good, man. And you'll be seeing it more, and hopefully we will have a Birmingham Olympic champion, a marathon swimming champion.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Birmingham, we are great. Walk a Mile in My Shoes podcast, and we're out.
I'm always chasing innovation.